Post pod. Here we go, V.
Here it is.
We got the matching hoodies, and we had Tom Roach, and this is amazing. So we covered a ton of ground with Tom. We were just saying, like, I didn't think we were going to get through all our list of questions, and all of a sudden he answered everything all at once. It's amazing.
Completely ratcheted things up. Completely.
Yeah. I mean, we covered, is there value in advertising, an open letter to CMOs to help justify brand budgets. We talked about difference and distinctiveness. We talked about purpose. We talked about ROAS and ROI, and then measuring things for real effectiveness. Like it's not a small amount of list of topics to get through.
No, not at all. And I think what I was probably most appreciative of is just like how open he was to talk about all of these. Like, I don't know if our listeners have kind of seen a lot of his content, but it's just so well thought out and, it's quote unquote evidence-based. Like, he does a great way to support his arguments. So, it was just incredibly, incredibly amazing just to have him on to kind of walk through some of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talked to him about this afterwards. Like, it's funny how we are so UK heavy, let's call it. All these people that we're bringing on. There's a lot of people in the UK that have a lot of thoughts and opinions. And so, yeah, for anyone listening that's in the US or Canada and we haven't picked up on it, like, let us know. Give us a note.
100%.
I mean, there's a ton of evidence that exists out there. So talking to a guy like Tom who synthesized a lot of it and put it all in one place is fantastic.
No, I agree.
What were some of the highlights for you?
I actually really enjoyed the conversation around like the difference and distinctiveness, and maybe it's not that obvious to a lot of individuals or a lot of marketers, but I think from when you're really starting to think through, and we've talked to Mary about this quite a bit as well. I know we've had her on a couple of times and then offline chats and whatnot. Yeah. But there is a clear opportunity there to kind of really I guess for your product and service is really distinguish, like, what are you actually going for? And there is an evolution to it as well. Like, you can start off being different, great, but then you have to build in that distinctiveness to kind of create, that longevity. So I think I really loved how he doubled down on that and really kind of, I think we peppered him with like 6 questions around that. So it's, I thought I really enjoyed that point of a conversation, to be honest. And then obviously like ROAS and ROI, I think that always strikes a chord. So those were kind of my 2 big ones. Yeah. How about you?
The distinctiveness question or conversation was really interesting. I did ask podcast gone by Jenny Romanek about that, and I remember one line that she had, and I think Tom said something like it too. But you don't have to be different. You don't have to differentiate to compete. You can just be distinctive.
Yeah.
And differentiation is often because of benchmarking and competitive intelligence. And the need to do more of the same of what these guys are doing. Like, differentiation isn't always sustainable, but distinctiveness is. So I thought that was, it was really interesting the way he was talking about it. It just reminded me of that. The value in advertising one I thought was really interesting. Yeah. I mean, we
went down a rabbit hole there.
We did, but it's an interesting question because it's one of those things. Ultimately, it's one of those things that people question right away.
Yeah.
Why are we spending this money and what are we doing with it?
Totally.
And I've been, since all day, I was thinking about that, and I think about a lot, but in general, I was thinking about specifically with following up on his conversation. I was thinking about that a lot. There's like a massive industry that's built behind this, and there's results built behind it. But I do think there's something to it with that strong versus weak force theory, in that there's an expectation in some minds that marketing is sales, and that sales can close deals today, and marketing can get deals to the table today. Yeah, and they're different, and so I think there's that's that strong force theory, and the weak force theory is these nudges and stuff. And so I do think it's important to think about performance in a different way. in using that weak force theory idea, maybe it needs to be rebranded. Weak force theory. It sounds terrible. But nudging people.
It's a great point. Yeah.
And the mental awareness, mental availability. I mean, there is something there just as far as you kind of need to measure that stuff if you want to show value there.
Oh, and I think as we were kind of, again, going through various questions there with him, you know, the one, I don't remember if it was you or I that brought up why did I just blank? Sometimes it's like the internal struggle that we have as marketers, right? To, you know, sell our craft, and, you know, the idea that, you know, a lot of marketers just kind of stay focused on the one side of it, which is like the ad side. Unfortunately, when we cited Mary's, like, you know, data there that was what 25% of your brand awareness, your brand building activities only coming through. Yeah. It only comes up, you know, through the branding, through ads. The other 75% is across the other touch points. And I think as marketers, like we're just too narrowly focused at times and not thinking about the broader scope of our responsibility. Yeah. And it could be a byproduct of how we're organized or what the org structures look like. And I completely get that. But I think again, as a practitioner, you have to make sure that you're thinking about like all the touch points marketing can affect, instead of just being that one. So it was just interesting, you know, hearing his take on that as well, because, you know, I know you and I may have these theories or these ideas, but it's like, well, does it resonate the same way as it maybe does in our heads? And it's good that it tracked. So I'll take that as a win.
Yeah, totally. It feels like one of those moments where like, we're not crazy.
We're not crazy.
Flashing back to Roger Martin. I've had a thought something like that once.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the purpose one I thought was interesting too. Like, you know, as a point of differentiation, a lot of companies do try and leverage purpose to, you know, find value. I think, and I'm maybe misquoting Tom, but I think there is value and purpose from a point of view of employee engagement, and alignment and that kind of thing. But I don't think it matters as much to the general consumer.
No.
Like, again, it's not, you know, when it's kind of like the innovation thing where you can say we're out to save the pandas or something, but then somebody else goes, yeah, we're also saving the pandas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So like saving them better.
Yeah. Like eventually someone just go, well, I just want a white t-shirt. Like totally. I just need a white t-shirt, and great that you're saving pandas, but it doesn't really matter for me if I just need a white t-shirt. I'm of the increasing opinion that it's what you said early on. This is more of an intrinsic or an internal organizational thing to keep people motivated, that the core purpose of the organization is more than just producing white t-shirts. It's also saving pandas in this case. And I think there's more value there, and really kind of keeping everyone aligned and keeping everyone like really excited about, you know, how an organization may be thinking about sustainability, about all the others. I don't know at the end of the day how much consumers actually care. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a spectrum, right? There's some people that just want the cheapest thing and wherever they can find it. And then there's other people that want the most expensive thing, or maybe not even the most, let's say Patagonia is on the other end of the spectrum.
Sure.
Where their, you know, purpose is totally built in every sort of stitch of their fabric.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? And so they're different ends of the spectrum. I think there's room for all of it. I just don't know that every company needs to have a grand purpose. You know what I mean? Like, and ultimately at the end of the day, you still need, I think Tom mentioned this too, you need the business model to support that, and the communication vehicle to be able to support that too. Because it can't just be
about, a great point,
you know, discounting and that kind of stuff. You still need profit to achieve the purpose.
Yeah. Actually, you just brought up something that sprung a thought. The whole idea about discounting and the disassociation with branding, while many marketers disassociate the two. It's like, well, if someone's, you know, you're on sale, that's not branding, or that's not something that, that's a different team usually that's managing like the tactical elements, and it's not, quote unquote brand. And the fact that it's like you're still branding in that moment, you're still communicating on behalf of, the product or service. It is branding out there, right? And I think all too often it's like brand marketers want to sit on one side of the fence, say, hey, we just talk about these other things, big things. And then again, it's just not, that's where you lack or you lose some of that consistency across, what's it called? Across your marketing communication channels as well.
Yeah. I like, it's just the ROAS ROI thing kind of coming back to that discounting conversation too. Like, I know we had a huge list of questions there. He did an amazing job answering everything in advance almost. So, but it's also a fascinating one. Again, thinking about Herman, and we talked to him, the profitability is a big part of what makes companies work, which allows them to do things like invest in the purpose and invest in their employees and do all those kinds of things. If you discount, you can't. But then you have this like thing in the back of your mind where if you are a performance marketer, you're looking at ROS totally. and ROI all the time.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain. I had class last night, and it was last class week. It was so good.
Yes. Got a week off now.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple of months now. That's great.
Oh, you do? Yeah, I'm still a little
sorry
behind.
to rub it in.
Thanks, man. This guy.
But but yeah, like it was I was thinking about his point about it being a ratio. So it's, the profits divided by costs gives you your kind of ROI ratio. It's not exactly the formula he said, but it's something like that. And so, like if your denominator is your costs, one of the ways to increase your ROI is to cut your costs. So you naturally underinvest in some things.
Yeah.
And to improve that even more, you would intentionally target people who you think are highly likely to buy today, which is not the whole market.
Nope.
It's just the people who are heavy buyers today. So it's kind of interesting because it leads you down a path almost, ROI and ROAS, that you think is a good thing, but it may not actually be a good thing at all.
I'm with you, man.
It's not a good thing.
It's not. And I don't know, I'm guilty of this. I'll be completely honest. And those who have worked with me would have known that I preached, obviously, earlier, the idea of like, maximize your ROAS, maximize some of those touch points and just keep going. Right. But the reality is, like
you and I both did like Black Friday and looked at our search keyword categories and it totally evaluated throughout the day based on ROAS.
Yeah. And I remember like we would create these win rooms and we would, we have Google in the room. We have all these vendors in the room. It's like, where are we maximizing our ROAS? Well, here's the keywords. Throw some more money at that. Let's just, let's go, so to speak.
Meanwhile, I'm in the other room with Facebook doing exactly, and they're both claiming credit for the
Of course. At some point, we have to do a podcast around reporting. And how much, intent reporting, because again, I'm seeing this everywhere still, man. People and organizations are still using last click everywhere. Yeah. But anyways, that's neither here or there right now. Let's just table that, but it'd be a great conversation. But all to say, be careful with ROAS. I think Tom put it as like, you can have it as a indicator, but it's not your primary indicator. Maybe it's your third or fourth. If you're trying to measure the efficacy of a campaign, look at some of those engagement metrics instead. Not the vanity metrics, but genuinely like how are individuals engaging with the ads? What is that behavior from the ad to the website? Think about dwell time or bounce rates, et cetera. Like try to see those relationships a little bit around key audiences that you create versus thinking about, hey, well, here's the number that we're going to use. It's 150% ROAS or whatever, and throw it up at the top and say, oh my God, we're amazing. Reality is it's very myopic thinking about it through that lens.
Now there may be Black Friday isn't the exception, because that is a day where that might make sense to do that. But yeah, it's interesting. The other one that he talked about, or he quipped about, is that even a word? Quip? I feel like that's a word.
Sure, run with it, man. You made it one.
He talked about it. Amazon. I thought that was interesting. Like, arguably the most data intelligent decision-making company on the planet.
Agreed.
And they're running TV ads.
Yeah.
Like, they could just be running retargeting ads all the time.
I meant to ask them. They made Prime its own thing, Prime Days.
Yeah.
Outside of a typical retail calendar, insert Prime Days, and they've made it a thing. You didn't do that without advertising.
No.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, the Amazon's, maybe we should find somebody from Amazon to talk to, but it's also an interesting one, because like the Echo is, I don't know if it's going away or not, but I do remember a lot of ads for that. And so it doesn't mean that ads are going to fix a bad product. Yeah. Like I've heard rumors that it's getting rid of Echo. I don't know if it's true or not, but divesting in it, maybe. The ads don't fix a bad product. You still need the product, and the product has to be good.
Yeah.
Whether it's an experience or anything else, like, you can't just win exclusively by ads, but it can definitely help amplify your chances of winning.
Yeah. No, agreed. And we touched on Tesla as well. And I also like the way we kind of like gone around that conversation. It's like, has Tesla really done marketing? It's like, well, how do you define marketing in that context, right? When you have someone like Elon Musk, who has such an intense following, and he tweets and he talks about, isn't that advertising in a sense?
Yeah.
He has his own organic reach, right?
Totally. I looked it up once and tried to figure out what it would cost to pay for the organic reach that he gets on a tweet. I mean, I'm making it up now because I don't really remember the numbers, but you need like tens of millions of dollars to get, or hundreds of millions of dollars to get the same kind of reach just on a tweet that he does.
Yeah.
So it's not a fair comparison. And like, I agree with him. Like, you can't put a Tesla in a rocket and live stream it if you're a regular kind of person. Like, he just has access. I mean, he's the world's richest person, or was.
Totally.
So you've got ability and tools and assets that nobody else on the planet has. And so to say that they don't advertise, I agree. I don't think it's totally correct. I mean, when you and I were working at Check together, it was like PR had its own budget. It was part of the marketing budget. Yeah. Content had its budget. Digital had its budget. TV had a budget. But PR had budget, and that was part of the marketing department.
Agreed. Like it's externally advertising or messaging something of service for an organization. That for me is advertising. It's a different channel. Agreed, but it's still advertising. The moment you're even adding funds behind it, potentially amplifying it. Anyways, I digress. Like the idea of, because I did a research project for school around Tesla, and looking around, hey, what is kind of like their marketing mix. So when you look at it through the traditional marketing mix, it doesn't follow a lot of that. So from a traditional marketing lens, it may not be exactly that, but at the same time, when you think about it in terms of, more holistically, it is 100%.
Communication. Yeah,
exactly.
Like, are they getting their message out? Yeah,
totally.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, even I saw a thing where Jay Leno drove, I forget what, Speedster or Roadster or whatever it was that they had. I mean, that's like a total marketing stunt.
100%.
PR, yeah.
Isn't that an influencer campaign?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Totally. I mean, he's a big influencer, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, anyways, I think I like seeing like both sides. You have one example was like Amazon on the opposite side potentially, when they don't need to. But then you have someone like Tesla who also quote unquote doesn't need to. Well, they probably need to more now than they've ever had because they're losing some of that first mover status.
The differentiation,
exactly.
The differentiation versus distinctiveness.
Exactly.
Like they were totally different, and now Ford, like every manufacturer's got like stuff, and there's new ones even coming out. Rivian or something like that. I saw the other day. Yeah. Other ones I've never heard of. I'm sure there'll be tons more. So that uniqueness that they had is eroding.
Yeah.
And there's going to be more and more competition. So
think about. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say some of these other brands now that are legacy brands in the industry. So the Fords, the Chevys, the GMs, Dodge, blah, 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 blah. They already have a large, loyal fan base, if you will, that, I know families that just buy Fords. I know families that just buy GM. So the moment that I believe, these car makers now are making these vehicles even more affordable, that's when like the shift happens. First movers, like the first people that bought Teslas, they're not your everyday people, right? And there's a distinctiveness to say, oh my God, you have a Tesla. Ooh, you must be doing well, right?
Yeah.
That's not, the barrier to entry now has now been lowered. So now I can go buy one if I want one. Yeah. Right. And it's because now it's become mass.
Yeah. Well, and I think I heard that California is going to have electric vehicle only sales as I forget the year, but it's something like 2035 or something like that.
Crazy.
Which will make the market that much bigger instantaneously as soon as that happens.
Yeah.
Which introduces that much more competition from all these other vehicle manufacturers. And to your point, like it'll drive down the costs and create a lot more competition. So that distinctiveness really will matter a lot then.
100%.
The differentiation doesn't matter as much then because it's harder to differentiate.
They'll just be electric vehicles now. So that if that becomes the norm, that's no longer different. But what makes you now distinctive?
Right.
And I still believe like Tesla's built enough of a brand awareness right now. Like they could probably still take back share once they potentially reprioritize or launch something new. Like I still think there's a chance. It's not like they're,
Oh no, they're not. I mean, they're a big company. They've
100%.
He's done some amazing things with that company. Like, yeah.
But
now I would say that probably what will happen is that their market share will dictate the loyalty.
Yes.
Right? Because that's the duplication of purchase, or no, not that one. What's that law called again? MPD. And non-binomial distribution pattern, whatever.
Own it.
It's the one from the Ehrenberg Bass Institute. I can't remember. I got to remember those names. But like the market share will dictate loyalty in a situation like that. So the larger the company, double jeopardy law, that's the one.
Ah, there it is. Yes.
So the larger the company of market share that Tesla has and owns going into this period, the higher their repeat purchase. And so as more and more entrants enter the competitive set, then their market share will shrink, which will shrink their loyalty purchase patterns. But they still have a lot of loyal customers. It's just they'll have less of them.
Right.
And then the new entrants with lower market share will have less customers and then less repeat customers.
Yeah. The auto industry is going to be very, very fascinating to kind of like watch over the next 10 years, how it adapts, how it transforms. Like you talked about Rivian. Does it just get bought out by a Ford or something at some point? Like, and it just like that technology, I just feel like it will eventually just come down to like, the major companies we have today.
It's interesting because it's like a market being birthed in real time in our lifetime and seeing things happening in real time. Like the evolution of an industry. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. I wonder if we can get somebody from that industry. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. All right, Pete. This was great.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Tom, it was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And until next time.
Adieu.
That's what we nailed it this time.
This is the first time we actually did it, right?
Yeah, I think it might be. That's awesome.
That's amazing.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.